In the cold, unyielding expanse of space, where survival often hinges on strength and cunning, an unlikely duel aboard a warship would challenge everything Commander Vela believed about power, honor, and humanity. Facing her was not another seasoned warrior but a scrappy, quick-witted human who seemed as amused by the prospect of death as he was determined to defy it. What began as a mockery of tradition soon spiraled into something far greater, a clash that wasn't just between blades but between worlds, ideas, and destinies. As the echoes of their fight reverberated through the stars, neither could have foreseen how this encounter would thrust them into a mystery older than the universe itself. The arena was a flawless circle of polished black stone, its surface gleaming under the artificial sunlight that bathed the combat deck of the massive warship. Surrounding it, the crew of the dreadnought gathered in eager anticipation, their eyes fixed on the center of the ring where the duel was about to unfold. The commander stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her posture impeccable, her pointed ears twitching slightly in impatience. This was a waste of time. The prisoner, a human, had been captured during a skirmish on a distant mining colony. He should have been processed like the others, sent to the labor pits or executed for defying the Empire. But instead, he had demanded a duel for his freedom. The audacity of it was laughable. Still, protocol dictated that a prisoner who invoked the right to single combat could not be denied, provided they had the means to fight. It was an ancient tradition, rooted in the warrior culture of her people, meant for seasoned fighters, not some primitive brawler who barely understood the weight of the blade he had requested. She sighed, glancing at the man being unshackled across from her. He stretched his arms lazily, rolling his shoulders with the confidence of someone who didn't seem to realize they were moments away from death. "Well," he said, rubbing his wrists where the restraints had been, "wasn't expecting a spa treatment, but I guess you don't do hand massages in captivity." Her expression remained unreadable, though she blinked at his words. "Nothing," he said with a grin, "just getting the blood flowing before I embarrass you in front of your friends." The gathered warriors erupted into laughter, some jeering, others smirking in amusement. But the commander remained stone-faced. Her kind valued wit, but they valued discipline more. A joke wouldn't save him. To his credit, the man didn't seem rattled by the reaction. Instead, he studied her with an irritatingly casual expression. She had fought hundreds of duels, faced some of the finest swordsmen in the galaxy. None of them had ever looked at her like she was a curiosity. Broad-shouldered but lean, his frame spoke of endurance rather than brute strength. His dark hair was unkempt, a stray lock falling across his forehead, and his face bore the subtle scruff of someone too preoccupied with survival to worry about grooming. But his eyes, those were sharp, far too sharp for a man who was supposedly walking to his death. "Are you done stalling?" she asked, her voice smooth but edged with irritation. He smirked. "Oh, is that what I'm doing? Thought we were just soaking in the atmosphere. It's not every day you get to fight on a spaceship. Nice place, by the way. Love the whole ominous war machine aesthetic." She had him pegged now. He was one of those fighters who used humor as a shield, throwing words around like feints, hoping to shake their opponent before the fight even began. She had no patience for such nonsense. With a sharp motion, she unclasped the fastenings on her combat tunic, letting the regal fabric of her overcoat slide from her shoulders. Beneath it, she wore skin-tight armor designed for speed over protection. Her blade, a curved beauty of folded plasma steel, pulsed faintly in her grip as she activated its monomolecular edge. The man's smirk faltered slightly. "Ha! Fancy." He reached to the side, where one of the ship's quartermasters handed him a sword, an older training blade, built for ceremonial duels rather than actual combat. Unlike hers, it had no energy edge, no enhancements, just plain metal. She arched an eyebrow. "You didn't request a more suitable weapon?" He tested the weight of the blade, giving it an experimental swing. "Nah, this'll do." Her patience was wearing thin. The ship's elder commander, a battle-scarred veteran, stepped forward and raised his hand. "By the ancient rites, the duel shall proceed." Victory is claimed by surrender, incapacitation, or death. His gaze flicked between them. Begin. The human barely had time to set his stance before she was upon him. She moved like a whisper of wind, striking fast and precise. The first blow should have taken him in the shoulder, a clean, decisive hit to end the fight before it even began. But it didn't. At the last second, he twisted, narrowly avoiding the strike. He stumbled slightly, regaining his footing, but there was no denying it, he had dodged. Her eyes narrowed. Interesting. She pressed forward, sending a flurry of rapid strikes his way. Each one was designed to test his limits, to break his balance, to force an opening where she could end it cleanly. He met her blade with his own, the clang of steel ringing through the arena. He wasn't as fast as her, but he was quick enough. More importantly, he was adaptive. Every move he made was sharper than the last, as if he were adjusting to her attacks in real time. She struck high, he ducked. She feinted left, he didn't take the bait. She slashed low, he blocked, the force of it sending him skidding back, but he held firm, his arms steady despite the impact. Their eyes met, and to her growing frustration, he grinned. "Not bad," he said, breathing hard. "You're not bad at all." Her long ears twitched. "You are still standing," she admitted. "That is unexpected." He rolled his neck, wincing slightly. "Yeah, trust me, I surprise myself sometimes too." The crowd murmured, their tone shifting from amused to intrigued. They had expected a slaughter, not a contest. Her grip on her sword tightened. She wasn't done yet. With renewed determination, she launched herself at him once more. The moment she surged forward, he knew he was in trouble. Her speed was incredible, far beyond anything he'd encountered before. She moved with an almost liquid grace, her long ears twitching as she adjusted mid-motion, predicting his counters before he even made them. He barely had time to react before her blade came down in a vicious arc aimed at his collarbone. He twisted, the strike grazing past his shoulder close enough that he swore he felt the heat of the energy blade hum against his skin. Okay, he said, backpedaling, "I get it. You're fast. You've made your point. Maybe now we do that thing where we sit down and talk about our feelings instead." She didn't answer. Instead, she pivoted, using the momentum of her missed strike to bring her sword around in a sweeping horizontal slash. He barely managed to block it, the impact rattling his arms and sending a jolt up to his elbows. She was strong, stronger than someone her size should be. He had fought enhanced soldiers before, cybernetically reinforced warriors who could tear through bulkheads with their bare hands, but she wasn't augmented, at least not in any way he could see. She was just that damn good. He grimaced. All right, note to self, stop making her mad. Her expression remained unreadable, but there was something in her golden eyes now, something sharpened by focus. Speak less. Fight better, she said, punctuating the statement with a sudden thrust. He sidestepped, barely, but she had anticipated that, twisting her blade at the last second. The monomolecular edge flicked toward his ribs, and only through sheer reflex did he manage to deflect it. The tip still caught the fabric of his shirt, slicing a clean line across the material. He glanced down at the fresh cut in his clothing, eyebrows raised. Hey, this was my last decent shirt. Do you know how hard it is to find something that fits in an alien prison? Her lips twitched, but she didn't take the bait. Instead, she shifted her stance, angling her body in a way that made his stomach sink. She was getting serious now. Fantastic. He exhaled, rolling his shoulders. This wasn't going to be won by luck alone. He needed to be smart. She struck again, but this time he was ready. Instead of reacting on instinct, he watched, really watched, how she moved. She was precise, but she wasn't reckless. Every step, every slash, every calculated pivot was designed to dismantle him piece by piece. But there was something else, 2. A pattern. He adjusted his footing. The next time she lunged, he didn't just dodge. He angled himself perfectly, letting her own momentum carry her forward just a fraction too much. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For the first time since the fight began, she was off balance. He struck, not a flashy move, just a simple, well-timed step-in coupled with a sharp tap of his blade against the exposed part of her arm. A minor hit, but a hit nonetheless. The arena went silent. She froze, slowly looking down at where his blade had touched her. He grinned. That's one. Her ears twitched in what he could only assume was irritation, or maybe mild confusion. Hard to tell with aliens. He barely had a second to appreciate the moment before she was on him again, faster, sharper, more relentless than before. So much for making her doubt herself. He blocked, parried, dodged, ducked, swore under his breath, and then did all of those things again in rapid succession. His muscles screamed in protest, but he ignored them. If he stopped moving, he was dead. She was pushing harder now, her strikes heavier, her precision even more refined. But there was something about a fight like this. When both opponents were skilled, it wasn't just about technique. It was about endurance. And endurance was something he had in spades. He wasn't faster than her. He wasn't stronger than her. But he had spent years surviving against impossible odds, fighting battles he had no business walking away from. If this duel came down to who could outlast the other, he had a fighting chance. He could tell she was starting to feel it too. She wasn't tired, far from it, but she was adjusting more frequently now, adapting to his ability to read her movements. That meant she was thinking. Thinking meant hesitation, and hesitation, that was an opening. He feinted left but at the last second shifted his weight, angling himself right instead. It wasn't a perfect trick, she saw through it almost immediately, but it was just enough to let him land another hit, this time a quick strike to the side of her leg. She hissed in frustration. 2, he said, panting. I gotta say, you're making me work for this. She exhaled sharply. You fight differently than any human I have faced. He wiped sweat from his brow. Is that a compliment? Because I'll take it. It is an observation, she said. Oh, well, now I feel less special. She studied him, her sword steady, her expression unreadable once more. He frowned. There was something different in the way she was looking at him now, not frustration, not anger. Curiosity. Great. He had impressed the scary alien warrior, which probably meant she was about to hit him even harder. She moved again, but this time her strikes weren't just fast, they were unpredictable. She had stopped relying on patterns, stopped using the refined, precise style he had been reading so well. Now she was adapting to him just as quickly as he had adapted to her. He barely managed to block the next blow, then the next, then the next. And then pain, a sharp, stinging line traced across his side. Her blade had grazed him, not enough to wound but enough to leave a mark. She stepped back. That's one, she said, mirroring his earlier words. He winced, pressing a hand to his side. Okay, yeah, walked into that one. The crowd murmured again, their excitement growing. They weren't watching an execution anymore. They were watching a real fight. She straightened, leveling her blade at him once more. You are not like the others, she said. He smirked, despite the burning in his muscles. Yeah, I get that a lot. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep this up. His arms ached from the constant impact of her blade, his breathing had become ragged, his muscles screaming in protest with every dodge, block, and counter. Yet, despite all of it, despite the exhaustion creeping into his bones, he was still standing. That was more than he had expected, and, it seemed, more than she had expected too. The commander paced in a slow circle now, studying him with a level of intensity that made him feel like a specimen under a microscope. Her golden eyes flicked over his stance, his grip, the way his chest rose and fell as he tried to regulate his breath. He wiped sweat from his brow and gave her a lopsided grin. "You look like you're trying to solve a math problem." She tilted her head, her long ears twitching slightly. "Mathematics is irrelevant to combat. Not if you're calculating your odds." She considered that for a moment, then, surprisingly, smiled. It was brief, but it was there. "My odds remain in my favor." "Yeah, that tracks," he muttered. A murmur rippled through the gathered warriors. This had gone on far longer than anyone had anticipated. They had expected a quick execution, a formality, a demonstration of their commander's superiority. Instead, they were witnessing something rare, an even match. She wasn't invincible. He wasn't overmatched. They were two fighters testing each other, pushing past their limits. For some reason, that made him grin wider. "Well, as much fun as this has been, I should probably start winning now." She arched an elegant eyebrow. "You believe you can?" He shrugged. "I mean, I believe in a lot of things, gravity, coffee, the undeniable fact that most doors on alien warships are way too complicated." She lunged mid-sentence. He barely twisted out of the way in time. "Oh, come on. I was talking." "Then speak less," she countered, slashing at him again. He parried, stepping back. "You ever heard of banter? Helps pass the time, keeps things light." Her ears twitched, her movements fluid as she pressed forward. "You joke to cover fear." "Nah, I joke because it's funny." Another strike. Another block. The dance continued. Her precision was terrifying. Every motion measured, each attack designed to expose his weak points. She wasn't just fighting him anymore. She was analyzing him in real time. But he wasn't just reacting anymore either. He was watching her, the way she shifted her weight, the micro-adjustments in her posture. She was testing him. And if she was testing him, that meant she wasn't sure how this would end. He smirked. "That's something, all right," he said, exhaling. "Let's change the tempo a little." This time, he didn't wait for her to attack. He surged forward, feinting right before pivoting left. She reacted instantly, her blade flashing to intercept, only to realize too late that he had already shifted again, slipping inside her guard for the first time. She was the one forced to retreat. The crowd reacted audibly, a ripple of surprise moving through them. He didn't let up. He pressed his advantage, forcing her back step by step. She blocked his strikes with practiced efficiency, but the shift in dynamic was clear. She wasn't in control anymore, and she knew it. Their blades clashed, locked for a fraction of a second. In that moment, he met her gaze. "Still think humans are weak?" Her golden eyes burned, then, to his absolute surprise, she laughed. Not a mocking laugh, not a derisive one. A genuine, amused laugh. He blinked. That's not the reaction I expected." She twisted, breaking the blade lock, and stepped back. "You continue to surprise me." He exhaled. "Yeah, well, it's a hobby." She studied him again, but this time her expression was different. The amusement lingered, the frustration was gone. He wasn't sure if that was a good thing. She adjusted her stance, lowering her blade slightly. "I have fought many warriors. Some skilled, some powerful. But none have fought like you." He tilted his head. "Because I'm just that good? Because you do not fight to prove something?" Her gaze sharpened. "You fight to survive." He hesitated. She wasn't wrong. He had fought in more battles than he could count, faced enemies who outmatched him in strength, speed, and numbers. He had never fought for glory or honor or some grand ideal. He fought because he had to. Because not fighting meant dying. She stepped forward, lowering her blade entirely. He tensed. What's happening? I have my answer, she said. Which is, you are not weak. He blinked. Oh. Well, that's nice to hear. He paused. Wait, does that mean I win? She exhaled. It means the duel no longer interests me. The crowd erupted in murmurs, some confused, others openly shocked. He lowered his own sword slightly, wary. That's not really an answer. Her expression softened, just a fraction. You fight as though you have always had to, a beat I no longer wish to test. He wasn't sure what to say to that. A moment of silence stretched between them before he cleared his throat. So, we call it a draw. Her lips twitched. You wish to claim victory? I mean, I wouldn't say no. She considered him for a long moment, then turned to the onlookers. The duel is over. One of the senior warriors stepped forward, his brow furrowed. Commander, the prisoner. He is no longer a prisoner, she said. He nearly choked. Wait, what? She turned back to him. You fought for your freedom. You have it. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He wasn't about to argue, but still, he hadn't exactly expected this outcome. He glanced around, half expecting someone to protest, but the warriors merely watched, intrigued rather than outraged. Sheathing her blade, she nodded once, then turned on her heel. Come. We have much to discuss. He stared after her, then exhaled. Well, he muttered, shaking his head, that could have gone worse. As they walked through the winding corridors of the warship, he tried not to look as lost as he felt. It wasn't easy. Everything looked the same, sleek metallic walls with an eerie blue luminescence running along their seams. It was like walking through the inside of a high-tech submarine built by aliens with an obsession for mood lighting. Every warrior they passed stopped what they were doing to watch him, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed amusement, and a few with expressions that suggested they wanted to stab him just to see if he could block it. She strode forward as if she hadn't just turned a death match into an awkward walking tour. He cleared his throat. So, where are we going? To the command deck, she said without slowing. He blinked. Huh. And what exactly happens on the command deck? We command things. He exhaled through his nose. Right. Should have seen that one coming. Her long ears twitched. You are free now. But freedom on a warship is complicated. I'm getting that impression, he muttered, catching a glimpse of a particularly large warrior who was staring at him like he was an unsolved puzzle. The ship hummed beneath his boots, a constant low thrum of energy. Every now and then, a nearby console flickered, displaying alien text that meant absolutely nothing to him. The language was a mess of angular symbols that somehow looked both elegant and aggressively sharp at the same time. He leaned slightly toward her. You're not going to throw me out an airlock, are you? She didn't stop walking. Not unless you attempt to steal one of our ships. He snorted. Hey, give me some credit. I'd at least try to negotiate first. Her lips twitched slightly before she faced forward again. That would be wise. They reached a large set of doors, far more ornate than the others. The moment she approached, the metal slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the command deck. His eyebrows rose. The room was huge, layered in multiple levels with platforms that curved around a central display of a holographic star map. The map shimmered with faint energy lines, highlighting ships and planetary routes. Warriors moved between stations, monitoring screens filled with tactical readouts and shifting data. It was like stepping onto the bridge of some high-tech naval vessel, if that vessel was designed by a species that thought subtlety was for the weak. One of the officers turned as they entered, his expression unreadable. Commander, you return with a human. She inclined her head. He is no longer a prisoner. The officer's gaze flicked to him, studying him with a mixture of skepticism and something that might have been mild amusement. An interesting decision. He clapped his hands together. Oh, I love when people say that about me. Always makes me feel like I'm about to get shot into space. She gestured toward the map. We are currently en route to the nearest outpost. There, you will be given the opportunity to. A shrill chime interrupted her. Every warrior on the deck snapped to attention as new data flared across the main display, rapid pulses of alien script scrolling too fast for him to follow. The officer turned sharply. Commander, we are receiving a distress signal. Her ears twitched. Origin. Outer perimeter, Deep Space Sector 12. A scout vessel has engaged an unknown threat. She moved to the console, studying the readings. He glanced at the display over her shoulder, not understanding a single word but recognizing the universal language of something having gone horribly wrong. Hostiles? She asked. The officer hesitated. Unclear. The transmission was cut short. Her fingers tightened around the console. He rubbed the back of his neck. So, just to clarify. Are we running toward the possible death trap or away from it? She turned her golden gaze to him. We are going to investigate. He sighed. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. The ship shifted as the engines surged, altering their course. The holographic map adjusted, highlighting a trajectory toward the last known coordinates of the distress signal. He folded his arms. You know, I could have just taken my newly earned freedom and stayed out of this. She smirked slightly. Then why are you still here? He opened his mouth, hesitated, then exhaled. Damn it, he muttered. I hate when people make good points. She turned back to the display, her expression sharpening. Whatever they were flying into, he had a feeling this was going to get a lot more complicated before it got better. The warship streaked through the void of deep space, its engines humming with a steady, almost ominous rhythm. The bridge was tense. He could feel it in the way the warriors moved, their postures sharp, their eyes locked on the swirling holographic display at the center of the room. She stood at the command console, studying the distress signal's last known coordinates. Her golden eyes flickered with unreadable emotion, but her grip on the console was firm, steady. He leaned against a nearby railing, arms crossed. So, on a scale of 1 to, we're about to get horribly vaporized, how bad are we talking? She didn't look up. That depends on what we find. He sighed. You know, it's not reassuring when the person in charge is also in the dark. The officer from earlier, the one he had decided to call grumpy until further notice, turned his head sharply. We do not walk into battles unprepared, human. He raised an eyebrow. Buddy, if I had a credit for every time I heard that right before things went sideways, I could buy my own warship. Her lips twitched, but she didn't comment. A new set of data flashed across the main display. The ship's AI chirped in a low, measured tone. Dropping out of warp in 10. He rolled his shoulders. All right. Here's hoping it's just a false alarm and not, say, a space kraken. She blinked. A what? Don't worry about it. The ship decelerated with a lurch. Real space unfolded around them as the stars snapped back into sharp focus. The moment they dropped out of warp, alarms blared. Contacts detected. Grumpy announced, his voice clipped. Multiple unknown vessels. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing at the display. A wreckage field stretched before them, pieces of metal drifting lifelessly. The remains of the scout vessel floated amid the debris, its hull blackened, its structure twisted from some violent impact. But that wasn't what made him tense. It was the other ships, sleek, angular crafts, dark as the void itself, hovering near the wreckage. Their forms pulsed faintly with strange violet energy. They had no visible cockpits, no clear weapon systems, but something about them made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Her expression darkened. Unknown vessels, hold position and identify yourselves. The only response was silence. Then one of the ships moved, not in the way a normal ship should move, not with the gradual acceleration of thrusters or the calculated drift of inertia. It flickered, one moment it was there, the next it was closer. He stiffened. Okay, that's unsettling. Shields up, she ordered. Prepare weapons. The warriors moved with precision, but he could tell they were just as unnerved as he was. The way the enemy ships moved, it was unnatural, like they weren't flying but phasing. The lead ship pulsed once, then a voice, cold, mechanical, layered as if multiple tones spoke at once, resonated across the bridge. You do not belong here. He made a face. Oh, great. Cryptic threats. That's never a good sign. She remained unmoved. Identify yourselves. The voice came again. This domain is not yours to trespass. Leave, or be unmade. He shot her a look. Okay, so I vote for leaving. Anyone else? She didn't take her eyes off the ships. We do not retreat. Grumpy grunted. They destroyed a scout vessel. That alone demands response. He sighed. Cool, cool. Love the warrior pride thing, really. But counterpoint, those things just broke physics. The enemy ships flickered again, appearing even closer. Their hulls rippled like liquid shadow. Then, without warning, they opened fire. Blinding arcs of violet energy lashed out, streaking toward the warship. The impact was immediate. He barely had time to brace as the entire vessel shuddered violently, consoles flaring with emergency warnings. She snapped into action. Return fire. The bridge erupted into chaos as gunners retaliated, launching a barrage of plasma rounds. The enemy ships twisted and flickered, dodging in ways that made his stomach turn. This is not how space battles are supposed to work, he shouted over the alarms. She ignored him, focused entirely on the battle. He could see it now, the calculation in her stance, the way her fingers danced across the controls. She was already adapting, already searching for patterns in the enemy's movements. Another blast rocked the ship. Grumpy cursed. Shields failing. He clenched his jaw. You got a plan here, Commander. Her eyes flicked to him, then she did something he didn't expect. She smiled. It was small, subtle, but it was there. He groaned. Oh no. That's the, I have a terrible idea, smile. She turned to her crew. Target their energy signatures. Aim for disruption, not destruction. Grumpy frowned. You want to disable them? They move by phasing through real space, she explained. If we disrupt that, they will be trapped. He hesitated. That actually makes sense. He paused. I hate that it makes sense. The warship's weapons recalibrated, shifting frequencies. A new volley launched, striking true. One of the enemy ships flickered wildly, its form distorting, then suddenly it was still. The bridge crew exhaled in unison. She nodded once. Now we talk. He ran a hand down his face. I swear, if the creepy space ghosts start whispering in my brain, I am officially quitting this adventure. She glanced at him. You could have chosen to remain uninvolved. He gave her a tired smile. Yeah, but where's the fun in that? The captured enemy ship hung in the void like a frozen shadow, its strange shifting surface no longer pulsing with that eerie violet energy. It looked less like a vessel and more like a piece of solidified night, smooth, seamless, and disturbingly unnatural. He frowned at it through the warship's main display. You know, I gotta say, I miss the days when ships had like doors, windows, signs that say, "Hi, we're totally normal space travelers and not eldritch nightmares." She, standing beside him, tilted her head. Your ships have signs. He sighed. I feel like you're missing the point. She smirked slightly, but her attention remained fixed on the mysterious vessel. Scan for life signs. One of the officers tapped at their console, waiting for the results. A moment later, their expression twisted in confusion. "Commander, I detect something aboard, but the readings are inconsistent." Her ears twitched. "Clarify." "The signatures are there one moment, then gone the next, as if they exist in fragments." He exhaled slowly. "Okay, I don't like that." She considered this for a moment, then turned sharply. "Prepare a boarding team." He blinked. "I like that even less." Grumpy, who, he had learned, was actually named Robin, though Grumpy suited him better, folded his arms. "Boarding is a risk, Commander." She nodded. "But we must know what we are facing." He rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Right. So instead of running away like sensible people, we're going to hop onto the ghost ship full of glitchy life signs." "Cool, cool. Totally normal choice." She glanced at him. "You are under no obligation to come." He snorted. "And missed the chance to die horribly in an alien horror movie?" "Nah, I'm in." The boarding team moved through the docking tube, stepping onto the dark surface of the enemy ship. The moment his boots touched the deck, he felt a chill, not physical, but something deeper, like the ship itself was studying them. The interior was just as unsettling as the exterior, smooth walls that curved unnaturally, surfaces that didn't seem solid so much as shifting between states of matter. There were no panels, no buttons, no visible controls, just an endless, silent corridor. He adjusted his grip on the energy pistol he'd been given. "So, anyone else feel like we're walking through the digestive tract of some ancient space god?" Robin shot him a glare. "Be silent, human." He grinned. "Not a chance, buddy." She ignored them both, eyes scanning their surroundings. "Stay alert." The team moved carefully, weapons at the ready. Then, without warning, the walls flickered. He froze. "Oh nope, 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 nope." A shape materialized ahead of them. It wasn't standing so much as forming, shifting between dimensions, its limbs phasing in and out of reality. It had a vaguely humanoid outline, tall, elongated, but its head was featureless, a smooth void where a face should be. Then it spoke. The voice didn't come from it, not in the normal sense. It vibrated through the air, sinking directly into his skull. "You have made a mistake." Robin immediately raised his weapon. "Identify yourself." The entity tilted its head. "You do not belong here." He exhaled. "Yeah, we got that message loud and clear the first time." She stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "Who are you?" The figure's body flickered again, phasing between solidity and nothingness. "We are what remains." He groaned. "Oh, great. Love a good cryptic answer. Always super helpful." She ignored him. "Remains of what?" The entity shifted its form, distorting. "A war that never ended." The team exchanged weary glances. He frowned. "So, just to clarify, are you ghosts, refugees, or some kind of ancient space malware?" The entity twitched. "We are the forgotten, the fractured. We exist between." She narrowed her eyes. "And you attacked our scout ship. Why?" For the first time, the figure seemed to hesitate. "It was not meant." He raised an eyebrow. "So what, you accidentally murdered them? You entered the threshold." She stiffened. "The threshold?" The entity flickered again, its outline distorting. "This space is not yours. It never was. It belongs to the ones who came before." A deep, unsettling silence followed. He slowly turned to her. "You're going to tell me you don't know what they're talking about, aren't you?" She didn't answer. Robin tightened his grip on his weapon. Commander, I do not trust this creature. She exhaled. Nor do I. She turned back to the entity. If this is your space, why have we never encountered you before? The figure's voice softened, almost sorrowful. Because you were never meant to. He frowned. Okay, I don't like the way you said that. The ship suddenly shook, a deep resonating pulse that sent a wave of energy through the walls. The entity's form glitched, its body warping as if it were being pulled apart. They have seen you. Her ears twitched. Who? The entity flickered wildly, its voice splintering. Run. And then it vanished. He inhaled sharply. Oh, that's so not good. A new alarm blared from the warship's comms. Commander, a voice crackled through. Multiple anomalies detected. Something is, the transmission cut off. She spun toward the boarding tube. Back to the ship, now. He didn't need to be told twice. As they ran, the enemy vessel shuddered around them, the walls flickering just like the entity had, as if the entire ship was phasing out of existence. He gritted his teeth. Tell me we're not about to get trapped in another dimension. She didn't answer, which was really not comforting. The warship trembled as they sprinted through the docking tube. The weightless void flickered on either side of them. Behind them, the captured enemy ship was collapsing, not physically, but in a way that made reality itself seem wrong, like someone had started deleting it from existence, pixel by pixel. The smooth, eerie hull twisted and faded in and out, and he could swear he heard voices echoing, layered, speaking in languages he didn't understand but somehow felt. I swear, if we get haunted by interdimensional space ghosts, I'm quitting, he panted, leaping onto the warship's deck. She was right behind him, barking orders. Seal the airlock. Full emergency thrust away from the vessel. Robin slammed his palm against the control panel, and the docking tube detached just as the alien ship's form collapsed entirely into itself. The warship roared as its engines ignited, streaking away from the anomaly at full burn. On the main display, the enemy ship gave one final flicker, and then it was gone. Not destroyed, not exploded. Just erased. He exhaled. Okay, that was horrifying. Let's never do that again. She turned to the comms officer. Damage report. Minimal. Shields held. No trace of the enemy vessel remains. He ran a hand through his hair. Yeah, well, that's extra creepy. It's one thing when your enemies blow up. It's another when they just stop existing. She was silent for a long moment, her golden eyes locked onto the empty void where the ship had been. They called this space the threshold. He nodded. And said we weren't supposed to be here. Which, gotta admit, is not a great thing to hear after you've barged in. Robin scowled. This changes everything. If there are entities that exist outside our understanding, beings that can manipulate reality itself, then. He trailed off, as if unwilling to finish the thought. He sighed. Yeah. It means the whole galactic power structure might be built on top of something ancient and pissed off. Super comforting. Her ears flicked, deep in thought. They weren't hostile. Robin scoffed. They destroyed our scout ship. She shook her head. That entity said it was not meant, an accident. They were warning us, not hunting us. He rubbed his temples. Okay, I'm no expert in alien diplomacy, but accidentally vaporizing someone's entire crew is a pretty bad first impression. She let out a slow breath. It means this is not a war. Not yet. He glanced at her. There was something different in her voice, something thoughtful. She had started this entire mess believing in absolute dominance, in strength as the defining measure of all things. But now she was considering other possibilities. He smirked. So, what's the move, Commander? Do we file an official oops, We stepped into forbidden space, apology letter. She turned toward him, studying him for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she chuckled. It was small, quiet, but unmistakably amused. You continue to be impossible. He grinned. It's a talent. She shook her head, but her gaze was lighter than before. She turned back to the bridge. We will return to High Command and report what